Okay, so here's what we're doing tonight. So because GDC's canceled, I decided to still not hold class because I know some of my students made other plans for that week. So instead, I decided to host streams where I play games with game developers and ask them questions that the students have, which should be a really fun time when playing a horror game because you all know how great I am at those. But I think Hannah has lately been playing as a spoopman, as it's called. No, what are they called? Killer. It's right here. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, I play a bit of both.
I only play Survivor, and I'm really bad at it.
I'm gonna introduce you to my people, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So I'm here with Professor Ashley, or Ashley, you can call her today, and we're gonna be playing some Dead by Daylight, playing some Survivor, and we're both gonna be talking about games user research, which is what I do for my day job, just so you guys know. So we'll be doing that for a lot of the time.
Yeah. So can your peoples can hear me, right?
Yeah, they can.
Oh, cool. Okay. So, yeah, I'm Ashley, and I'm a professor in entertainment arts and engineering at the University of Utah. So a lot of my students are watching the stream right now because I thought what better for professional development than to have the opportunity to interview a games user researcher working live in living color on stream while playing this person's favorite game, which is my least favorite game because I'm a coward. And I also thought it'd be really funny to be like trying to fix a generator while like trying to also ask a question. So I know you can't see it in your stream, but I'm holding up. I have a paper full of questions that the students have for you that I'm going to be reading off of. God help us all. Rip.
Sounds good.
So, can I ask you a question while you're doing that?
Yes.
Can I ask you a silly question to warm up?
Yes.
Okay, this is the silliest question the students asked, and I almost didn't want to ask it, but which it's not related to user research at all. Would you rather have 10 hands on your head or 10 heads on your hands?
Definitely 10 hands on my head.
So my
final answer.
Are you gonna think aloud us through it?
I mean, I'm just trying to think of the logistics of that. Okay, yeah, I can do that. So I'm thinking of the logistics. First of all, I was very taken aback by this question.
This is why I didn't want to ask it. So certainly I didn't want to ask it while we're like in game because I had to like.
That would be even better, right? Because I would just be so beside myself. I'd probably have to stop repairing a generator to wrap my head around it. Anyway, so here are my thoughts. I'm thinking of like how I would live my day-to-day life, and having 10 heads on my hands, like that's just not practical, and those are like 1,000 concussions waiting to happen just like by existing. So I think just like for simplicity and like for practicality, it's definitely going to be the hands on my head. That's kind of where I thought, and then I was like, all right, done.
Here's another softball question to get started. Why stream Dead by Daylight? What called you to this game? Because this is the only game you stream, right?
Well, okay, yes and no. I do stream other games occasionally. I try to stream other horror games. I just love horror in general, so it made a lot of sense to me to have a game where I could be social, I guess, and try to, like, I like adrenaline, so it just makes sense to me. I don't know. I love all the classic horrors too. So like, you know, you have Freddy and like Michael Myers and like all these other like spin-offs that they can't say for like legal reasons. So like Leatherface. So like I love all these things because I love all these movies. So it just naturally drew me to it.
So the chat is still on this head-hand thing, so maybe this was the last question. So Gaming Agent said, I assume there'd be too much of a delay between the brains for it to be effective. And Zelly said, yeah, I feel the brains would just be in conflict. And God bless Zelly for trying to wrap her head around this ridiculous thing while having a fever. Oh, man. Yeah, Dead by Daylight, I really like the multiplayer aspect. It's like how a horror game could be even more horrific if you're not playing against AI but other people.
Yeah, right.
The most dangerous game is people.
Ah!
Oh no, you're already dead? That sounds like a great time for a question. Oh, you're over there. Okay. Oh, you're getting hauled up. Okay, I'll come and save you. But before I do that, you have to answer your question.
Sorry, you'll hear me screaming randomly because that's just how Steve's. Anyway, yes, question.
Okay. What method have you used the most in user... Oh, poop. Yep, I'm definitely asking a question, so I'm trying to come rescue you. Okay, so what method have you used the most in user research in like the lifespan of your career? And using most as defined, whatever. Sorry, I'm trying to rescue you. Either once a week or once a month, like just the most frequently used.
Okay, first of all, thank you for rescuing me, and thank you for now healing me.
Heal check.
Second of all, I use usability testing probably
poop
the
faces.
most.
Poop faces right here!
Oh, I see him, don't worry. Oh, he's after me, he's tunneling me! Can you believe this?
No, but I'm gonna go rescue this person.
I can, unfortunately.
Oh,
Anyway,
Grandpa's here.
yeah, I would say usability testing, and for how often, it really just varies on what's being...
This was such a good idea. I regret You're dead? You straight up died?
I died because I had to fix something, so we're gonna watch you now.
Oh no! Okay, well then let's carry on then. So one of the questions that I want to know is if you could go back in time and tell yourself as a student. I'm screaming. If you could go back in time and tell yourself, little baby Hannah, student Hannah, one thing, what would it be? It doesn't have to necessarily be about user research, just like one thing in general.
That if there's something I really want to do, to just do it.
And
not wait.
That's so empowering.
That's 100% what I would tell myself.
I feel like
That's
you're
actually
checking
a really
me
good
first.
question. I think you should also answer that question.
Oh, that's yeah, okay. But I'm also gonna get chainsawed, which I just did. Okay. Oh, but yours was so inspirational. How do I follow that up? I think I would tell myself to get a mechanical keyboard and start streaming sooner so I can let everyone's ears be soothed by the amazing noise of me pounding the spacebar right now. So I might be joining you in death pretty quickly. I think I would tell myself to not wait for someone else to make... Oh, poop. Okay, so I've been rescued, but...
Oh!
But
nice.
not really.
Nice borrowed time.
So I think I would hide in a locker. No, I would tell myself to stop waiting for people to make opportunities for me. And I'm zigzagging like a rabbit, which is my general strategy, and it did not work.
That's good. That's a good strategy. I mean, you like lived for a little while, so it worked.
Yeah, I feel like I spend a lot of my 20s waiting for people to make a job for me, or waiting for people to make a position for me, or waiting for people to make a degree for me. And I think I would be much more of a go-getter now and just say, make your own. That's what I tell myself, make your own.
Yep.
Okay, so this came up in class because when Dead by Daylight launched, this is not necessarily about like the games you work on or anything like that, but as a user researcher, I thought it'd be really interesting to have you comment on balance in Dead by Daylight because when it first launched, there were some balancing issues, and one of the things that I was talking to the students about today is that balancing in games, in multiplayer games, is really difficult because, of course, when you're just working on the game as a developer, you just test against AI, and then you'll start testing against the people in your office, and then those people are not necessarily the same people that are going to play the game worldwide. And even if you do your due diligence and you go out and you get play testers that fit your core demographic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the really cool and awesome thing about multiplayer games that makes it extremely hard to user test for is there's just so many people out there that players will find exploits that you hadn't anticipated.
Yeah.
So, how is the concept of balance for games like Dead by Daylight, where it's asymmetrical play, decided more generally, and how would you as a user researcher figure that out? Like if you were to work on Dead by Daylight, how might you go about testing for balance and working with the designers to determine what asymmetrical balance in a survivor-killer situation looks like.
Definitely. So 2 things. First of all, Peels in my chat says, wow, this lady sounds really smart, and she is.
I fooled you good.
And 2, there's a couple ways I would do that. So the first way is like always, okay, actually there's a few thoughts. So the first thing is with asymmetrical games, I feel like there's always going to be a sense of unbalance to an extent. And it's just like a matter of going going back and forth and finding a sweet spot. So how to do that, like there's a couple ways, and I think they all kind of inform each other. So one way is usability testing and doing a lot of that and just kind of seeing what the outcomes are. With that, a lot of play testing, which there is a difference. So usability testing just to see what the usability issues are with the game, and play testing to see how like a larger group of people perform when playing the game. And collecting that data. So usability testing tends to be done with like obviously like fewer people. You get more insight just to like if people run into problems using the game. So playtesting, you're going to get more about like performance and how people do with the game overall. And then another way would be to use like telemetry data and like A/B testing kind of, and just seeing how people perform out in the wild, I would think, so to say. And get the telemetry data from that and how people are performing there. So like, for example, if it's really one-sided, I think you'll get that from your telemetry data. That's not really something you can get in a usability lab. And also listening to your community. So like if you have a good connection with your community, you can send out surveys to kind of keep a pulse on that and see how that's changing as you're making changes with your game. So like all those things kind of come together to help inform this. I guess like that's a multi-pronged approach, but that's kind of how I would measure that.
For sure. So when this is back to an earlier point, but when you say usability testing, I think I use a different term for it. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So when you say usability testing, what are you referring to?
Yeah, so I guess like usability testing is to me like fairly broad. So like, are they able to perform all the actions? Like, are all the actions balanced? So like, if you
what that looks like is having a playtester sit down and play the game, but with a particular eye for.
Yeah, for like if they can get through everything fine, if everything is clear, if they understand the game. Because obviously if you don't have much of an understanding of how the game works, then I think that could inform, I guess, like whether something might appear balanced or not.
Well, I hear Spirit doing something, and I don't want to be a part of that. Oh, no. Oh, come on. We're trying to talk about user research, Spirit. I don't know this killer. I haven't encountered this killer yet. Oh. All right, well, while I'm trying to recover, Sean Wanderer says, I've seen board games with 6,000 plus playtests discover problems only after release. It's true. You think you future-proof it, you think you player-proof it, and then you release your game into the wild, and someone makes a better idiot, as the phrase goes. I'm not calling playtesters idiots or players idiots. I'm being facetious.
I get what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah.
That is good to clarify, though, because I feel like that's kind of a slippery slope, and I don't like it when people refer to like
I'm like
idiots.
I'm fully that idiot, right? So I love it when students all the time, I tell them I'm good at 2 things in this world. I have an extremely flat head that I can balance things on, and I can find bugs like nobody's business. And students be like, why are you going over there? Why would you do that? And I'm like, I don't know why I am the way I am. However, I do this thing and it breaks games. So there you have it. Okay, I'm trying to follow this person. Safety in numbers. So would you say usability test? Oh, come on. Let me play. Would you say usability tests, in your experience, return the best data? So we talked a little bit about it tonight as your preferred method, but is it your preferred method because of like the richness of data that you get?
Am I muted?
No, you're not.
Okay, I'm not. Okay. I don't know if I'd say it's my preferred method. I'd say it's a common method used though because of so like obviously we choose the type of method based on what the research request is and what the research questions are. I don't know if I'd say it's like my most used method because of like the richness in data. It does give a lot of good foundational, I guess, data, but I don't think it's like a catch-all method, if that makes sense. Like it has its purpose, just like anything else, but I wouldn't like say it's a go-to method for things. It's more of a good like foundational method, and then to hi, I see you. No. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't say that like usability is like a catch-all method by any means. It's a good foundational method and one to kind of like go as you're developing a product and just kind of go back to and like benchmark things, so to say. That's more how I would describe it. It's more like about fitting the research question.
Oh, did you also die?
Yes, I'm dead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were still in the running.
I felt like she was coming after us pretty hard.
Yeah, she was a hater for sure. So, one of the other questions, so I think some of the students that get into user research actually do so because they have an interest in game design and they want to learn how to test their game design. So they get involved in user research, but really it's a means to an end. So do you have an interest in game design? Did you ever consider being a game designer? Not that user research is like, you know, a second choice.
Lame.
Right. I'm not trying to imply that at all. Just wondering if you've ever thought about being a game designer.
No, I haven't. But to answer your question, no, I never really had an interest of being a game designer. I always actually thought I would do something psychology related. I wanted to be a therapist or like a researcher in psychology. And then that kind of led me to games, not really the other way around. So no, I don't really have an interest in like game design in general.
Okay, what is a constant mistake user researchers make? You can talk about baby user researchers or just user researchers in general, but what's a constant mistake you've seen?
Oh gosh.
In the wild, user researchers making?
Honestly, just not like having confidence or like believing in yourself. I feel like
something that's a sweet one.
Something I've experienced, I feel like in this field and as a researcher, like as a woman, I feel like sometimes you might not be taken as seriously, or people think you're more junior than you really are, and I feel like you just have to like believe in yourself and have the confidence to kind of like, I don't know that you know your shit, and like you don't have to know everything to know your shit. So like you don't have to be a veteran, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's what I would say. I see that.
So on that note, I think some of the lady students were interested in the gender breakdown in user research, and I seem to remember, so the Games User Research Special Interest Group produces an annual survey that's a kind of census that shows us all the data about, you know, what games user researchers look like, how much money they make, all sorts of really interesting data. And I seem to recall it being like a 60-40 split. Like 60%
for women and men?
Yeah, 60% men, 40% women, which is better than most aspects of the game industry. Do you remember, Hannah?
I'm
sure you know the... Yeah, Zelly says, preach. Amen. But I feel like user research tends to be one of the areas in games that is much more gender equal. What's your experience?
I find that to be true. I feel like it's more equal in games than it is in general UX, having come from finance and working with people who have never worked in games. They tell me it's similar. So like, for example, when I was working at US Bank, almost all of my coworkers were women researchers, and that sounds like it's fairly common for other people's experiences. And yeah, I do find in games it's more equal.
How many people are queuing for a match right now? Also, I see you muted yourself. That's fine.
Queues are really long right now for Survivor.
Yeah, right?
It's just with a balance. It changes. It used to be the opposite. It used to be really quick for Survivor, really long for Killer, but now it's reversed.
I'm here to die. Yes, I'm here to die. Yes, that's the best username. So while we're waiting for this queue, let's do a hard-hitting question. That's going to be really difficult to answer. Okay, tell us about a time when running a user research test challenged you either mentally, physically, or emotionally. Any of the three. But sometime that you were working in the lab and you did a user test and you felt challenged.
I mean, I feel like that happens kind of all the time. Like, I mean, the classic thing that comes to mind is when you're in a usability study and you're asking someone to think aloud and, you know, they like give you one-word answers or like they don't answer your question. Or they'll say something totally different and you have to think of creative ways to rephrase your question and like get the kind of information you're wanting without being too direct. So
this is for sure relatable content. How do you try and extract more information from those one-word think alouders?
Yeah, so usually when that happens, I'll ask them to first of all tell me more about that, what they mean by that, and usually that's just fine. Usually they'll just like start talking on their own and then it's okay, but sometimes I'll have to kind of reframe my question to get at what I really want to. But usually it's just asking them to talk more, asking them to explain. Usually it's just things like that.
Have you ever had someone that's just like adamantly silent during a think aloud?
What was that?
Have you ever had someone just be like totally stone-faced silent during a think aloud?
Yeah, and then I usually just remind them to think out loud while they're doing this process.
And even after you did that, they're just like totally silent?
Yeah, sometimes, but I don't think I've had it where they literally just won't talk. Like, they usually will talk eventually, and you just need to probe them a bit, but you can almost always tell immediately if someone's gonna be that way, like, from there on out. It's just like, okay, this is, like, you'll mentally prepare yourself. Like, this is just what it's gonna be.
Okay, so this is a good time to ask a question. Why did you personally get into games user research? So I didn't know this, but you said you... Oh, shoot. I just waved people over. I don't know why I did that. I accidentally hit a key. You worked in banking user research? Or...
Yeah.
This guy is on my booty! Oh, no! Okay, that's bad UX, because it looked like I could squeeze through those rocks and I couldn't, so... Well, now I'm dead. Okay, so you worked in banking user research, which seems way more lucrative than games user research.
It is.
And then you made the switch
is.
because of fun, happy, good times. And I think I'm just leaving the killer over to you.
Oh, I'm dead. It's fine.
You died?
I did die, yeah.
Oh, how? Okay, there's another...
I tried to unhook myself, that's why. I'm impatient. German theater, interesting.
Okay, but why'd switch from banking to...
Oh, why switch from banking? Cause I just think games are...
Are you laughing because I said farts? We're the only ones in chat. Nice.
Yeah, I just think games are more fun, I guess. I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Sure.
So, okay. I come from a place where I'd like to make either a lot of impact in my work or at least like love what I do. And I didn't really feel either of those working in banking, and I guess I just felt like, okay, well, if I'm not gonna have like a big impact, at least let me do something I love. And I don't know, I just love games, you know? Games be games.
For sure. Qualitative, quantitative data. Weigh in. What is the easiest to convince stakeholders?
It really depends. So, I mean, okay, completely like truthfully, I would say like quantitative, but at the same time, I've had a lot of good experiences with stakeholders for qualitative data, because like, you know, it's like not like maybe quantitative if they don't trust you. Like, I guess that's what it comes down to. Like, if they like trust like what you're saying, then they'll trust you either way, and like what your findings are and your recommendations. But like for people who maybe don't understand research as well, they think quantitative is always what they need.
So I was wondering, so students are interested, obviously burnout in games is a really common common problem, common question. And so the students were interested in like you experiencing burnout or people you know experiencing burnout in games, but I'm more interested in, I feel like burnout is in every industry, and in academia it is real. Like burnout is real, especially like PhD. Every PhD student I know goes through some form of burnout where they just want to rage quit.
I believe that.
So I was wondering, you felt the grad school crunch. Oh, poop. I'm hearing the, oh, poop. Wait, no.
It's Michael Myers and he's stalking me, but it's okay.
I just heard the noise.
Yeah, he's stalking me.
Hey, we have the same hair. Okay, so can you compare your experience in industry to experience doing your master's degree and the type of like crunch or burnout that you experienced in each?
Okay, it was a lot harder doing my master's than it is working in games user research. I've never experienced any kind of burnout with my job, either at Epic Games or at Microsoft.
Oh, that's great. That's really good to hear.
Yeah, I was actually in a much worse mental place in my master's, but I don't think that was just because, I mean, it is, yes, partially because of grad school, but it was also just because of the environment of like, there's a lot of politics in grad school, at least in my program, and I'm sure there is in most, like a political stress, and I don't know, it's just like a lot more independent than I guess I would say my job has been. Like you just gotta do everything yourself, like, and teach yourself everything, and just you have to be very independent, which is fine. I like that, but it was just like the stress was much higher in grad school, and even my partner was like, "Wow, you've changed so much since you've been done with grad school. Like you're so much happier and like less stressed out." And I was like, "Oh, really?" Because like, you know, you always look back on things eventually with like rose tinted glasses or whatever, and that's why I'm missing school right now, even though everyone tells me to not go back. But yeah, it was very stressful. It was a very stressful time, and like the lack of money doesn't really help, obviously.
So did you, when you said it's more independent, were you referring to grad school or games, working in games? Like you have to teach yourself everything, I think you said, something to that effect?
What was the question? Sorry.
No, you're good. When you are, you mentioned something that you're more independent, you have to teach yourself things. Were you referring to grad school, or were you referring to working in games?
Grad school. But I guess it's like that to an extent in games in the industry, but it's certainly, that's like almost all grad school, I felt like. I'm curious about your experience with academia. Do you find that it's similar, where it's like you just kind of like have to teach yourself everything?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but I also feel like games are like that, especially when, so I have students that'll ask me like, hey, how do I like do this UI implementation? I'm like, oh, Padawan, what if I told you that most of the time in industry you'll just be sitting there Googling how to do things?
Yep.
I feel like that. I pulled the barrier down on the other side because I'm a dork. I feel like that much is true. I feel like asking people for help and Googling things. I'm an idiot and I forgot to hit the spacebar.
You're talking. It's hard to multitask.
Oh, it's so hard. I feel like there's similarities in that, but I feel like when I was doing my master's and my PhD, it was much more, you're on your own without guidance, like at least, oh, I hit it way too early.
You're good.
Spacebar. In games, it'll at least be like, you can at least see the end goal, whereas I feel like my PhD experience, my master's experience was very much, you make your end goal yourself, and you make all the rules yourself, and then you make your assignments yourself, and then you figure out how to do it yourself. Yep. And it's like, oh, I'm drowning. I don't know. I think I try and be nicer to my students than how I was treated.
Yeah.
When I was doing my master's.
That's good. I'm glad that you're nicer to your students. I feel like not enough people are like that. It's more like,
I don't know if my students say I'm nicer, but I think I am.
Oh shit, he's coming. Catch game!
Okay. I've got like 3 questions left. You're almost done. You're almost off the hook. Oh, Dead by Daylight reference. Ohio. Okay, I have a really good question for you. Really exciting question.
All right, what's
You're
your
ready.
question?
How do you filter feedback for designers? Like, let's say you get a real steaming turd of feedback that's like really brutal. How would you filter that through for a dev team?
Like, okay, like bad in what way? Like, is it even useful? Are they just being an asshole and not helpful? Or like, what do you mean when you say bad?
Well, let's say you know, I don't know. Let's say in this fictional universe. So I think my students tend to be really close to their dev teams because we have such a small studio environment. They work in like indie teams. So for them, they might personally know someone, and they might know that this person treats this particular game or this particular aspect of the game like their baby. And if they get any kind of critical feedback, even if it's really useful feedback, if it's critical feedback, that person might not be as receptive to that feedback. So at this point, like, how do you tell someone their baby's ugly when you know it's their baby and you are friends with them and you don't want to tell them?
Yeah, so that's actually a very common thing in this industry and in UX in general. So we're always here to, like, you know, our job is to advocate for the user and really just frame it from that perspective instead of focusing on how much their product sucks. So really just focusing on what the issue is and why that's an issue for a user instead of being like, hey, this like this effing sucks, this is so bad, I can't do anything.
So have you ever done that and thought you like couched the feedback really, really well and then had the designer or whomsoever was getting the feedback just go, nah, like I'm not doing that, nah?
No, I actually haven't had that.
Oh, good.
But
Okay.
like if they do that though, like that's not my problem. You know, like I'm there to advocate for the user, and if you don't want to take my feedback, like that's what you choose to do, you know? Like so that's kind of like that gets into like managing relationships with stakeholders and like where your boundaries are, and that does vary from stakeholder to stakeholder, and you get to kind of know people the more you work with them and what things you can kind of give recommendations on and what things maybe to be more vague about, and that's just something you learn over time. But it's always up to them what they want to do with it and if they want to listen to you or not. And that's, I mean, if they don't, like, that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Okay, good.
Have you ever like followed up on a project though and thought, like, had a talk with a stakeholder and thought, wow, I really got through with them, and then you follow up on the project and they didn't make any of the changes, or like you retest the game and there's the same problems?
Yeah, that has happened actually. And sometimes I also understand. It just depends on the person too, and like if in the organization. So if it's like an indie dev, like it's a lot more glaringly obvious that they just like chose not to take your advice. But when it's like in a big company or organization, like I don't take it personally because there's probably some reason above them that like was out of their hands for not changing it. That's kind of like where my mind goes.
Yeah, got that Jenny up. Hey, maybe we can actually win one. Oh, yeah. Okay, here you are. Perfect. Okay. Oh, no, I did it too soon. Crap.
Oh, yay! Okay, let's go get it. Wait, how did that happen? How did that just pop?
The hatch?
The generator. Like, it was the exit gates were open.
Well, I
don't
think
know
someone
why
else
that
was working on a generator. Like, ours didn't get fixed.
No, it didn't, but it shouldn't have let us crank them either, is what I'm saying.
Oh, I have no idea.
That's
I'm
so
just
bizarre.
I'm just here to make friends. Oh yeah, we're gonna win!
Oh yeah! Oh hell yeah! Let's go!
Freedom!
Does she? Okay, good. She doesn't have no ed. So we totally ditched that one person though, and I feel really bad. Whoops. Oh well, I didn't mean to.
Oh no! Did we do it bad?
No, we did just fine.
Okay,
I hope
good.
that person gets out.
Okay, good. Awesome. I feel really awful. How will we know if they got out? Will they join us in this sprint?
You can spectate. They're not getting out. This is horrible. I'm leaving. I just can't watch it. It's like watching a burning car.
Oh no, because now she has a thing on her head. So we're fully bad people.
Let's not talk about it. I don't know
How
what
did
I'm
she
talking
get stuck? Why didn't she leave with us? Well, I think we should end on a high note. I think I'm ready for bed. So, do you have anything that you would like to plug or promote besides Panic Attack, which is your fantastic Twitch channel? Like and subscribe.
I guess if you have any other questions regarding games, to go watch my YouTube video on getting into the games industry. I have a lot of tips.
Thank you so very much for answering all the student questions. It helps us out a lot, and I really appreciate it. And I'll hopefully
of course.
see you in person at some point when this whole COVID-19 thing blows over. But thank you.
Yes,
Thank
of
you.
course.